What if one of the most important witnesses in the Nancy Guthrie case has been sitting silently in an evidence room this entire time? Not a person. Not a neighbor. Not a security camera. A watch. More specifically, an Apple Watch. More than 100 days have passed since 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie reportedly disappeared from her home during the night under deeply troubling circumstances. Investigators have examined surveillance footage, collected physical evidence, followed leads, and worked through countless hours of investigative review. Yet despite all of that effort, the public still has very few answers. What happened inside that home? Where was Nancy taken? And perhaps most importantly, who was responsible? But as investigators continue searching for those answers, there is one aspect of this case that deserves a closer look. It is something many people may not think about immediately when discussing a disappearance. Technology. Today, people carry digital devices almost everywhere they go. Phones track movement. Vehicles store travel information. Security systems record activity. Smartwatches quietly collect data every minute of the day. That raises an important question. If Nancy Guthrie was wearing her Apple Watch on the night she disappeared, what information might that device contain? Before we explore that possibility, let's briefly revisit what is known about the case. According to investigators, Nancy Guthrie was taken from her home during the early morning hours. Reports indicated there was evidence of violence at the scene. Surveillance footage reportedly captured an individual moving around the property while wearing a mask and dark clothing. The images quickly spread across news broadcasts and social media. People across the country watched the footage and asked the same question. Who was this person? The investigation attracted widespread attention for several reasons. Nancy was 84 years old. She was reportedly living a quiet life. There appeared to be no obvious reason why someone would target her. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, public concern only grew. Family members continued searching for answers. Law enforcement continued investigating. And people everywhere continued hoping for a breakthrough. At first glance, many assumed that traditional evidence would ultimately solve the case. Perhaps fingerprints. Perhaps DNA. Perhaps surveillance footage from nearby neighborhoods. Those forms of evidence remain incredibly important. But modern investigations often involve another category of evidence that can be just as powerful. Digital evidence. That brings us back to the Apple Watch. Most people think of smartwatches as fitness devices. They count steps. They monitor exercise. They display text messages and phone calls. What many people do not realize is how much information these devices collect throughout the day. An Apple Watch can record heart rate activity. It can track movement patterns. It can monitor sleep interruptions. It can identify sudden changes in physical activity. In some cases, it can even help establish a timeline of events. Imagine an ordinary evening. Someone eats dinner. They watch television. They prepare for bed. Throughout that entire period, the watch may be quietly recording information. Heart rate remains steady. Movement remains normal. Activity levels appear routine. Then something changes. A person suddenly stands up. Movement increases. Heart rate rises. Walking patterns shift. Those changes create data points. The watch does not explain why those changes happened, but it records that they happened. And that distinction matters. Investigators are often less interested in assumptions and more interested in timelines. When exactly did something occur? How long did it last? What happened before it? What happened afterward? Technology can sometimes help answer those questions. The exact information investigators may possess in this case is not publicly known. Authorities have not released detailed findings regarding Nancy Guthrie's personal devices. That is important to emphasize. The public does not know what data may or may not exist. But investigators certainly understand the value of examining every available source of information. The problem is that many people still think about investigations the way they were conducted decades ago. They picture detectives interviewing witnesses and searching for physical clues. Those methods remain essential. However, modern investigations often involve digital reconstruction. A person's phone may reveal where they traveled. A vehicle may record location information. Home Wi-Fi systems may establish when devices connected or disconnected. Cloud backups may preserve information that users believed had been deleted. Taken together, those digital records can help investigators build an incredibly detailed timeline. And timelines matter because memories can fade. Technology does not rely on memory. It records activity as it happens. This raises another question. What if Nancy's watch documented something unusual during the hours surrounding her disappearance? Again, there is no public evidence confirming any specific findings. But investigators routinely examine these possibilities. For example, a sudden increase in heart rate could indicate physical activity or stress. Unexpected movement patterns might reveal changes in routine. Periods of inactivity could establish other important facts. Each piece alone may seem small. Together, they can become significant. That is often how major investigations work. One clue rarely solves a case by itself. Instead, investigators gather hundreds of small details and slowly fit them together. Think of a puzzle spread across a large table. One piece may not reveal much. But eventually the image starts becoming clearer. The Nancy Guthrie investigation appears to be at that stage right now. Many questions remain unanswered. Many details remain unknown to the public. Yet investigators continue working behind the scenes. And some of the most important evidence may never appear on a television screen or in a public press conference until the time is right. There is another reason digital evidence deserves attention. People often assume that offenders can hide simply by wearing masks or avoiding cameras. That is not always true. Technology leaves traces in unexpected places. Phones communicate with towers. Devices connect to networks. Applications create records. Vehicles store data. Sometimes investigators learn more from digital activity than from eyewitnesses. And that possibility makes this case especially intriguing. Because if technology captured even a portion of what happened that night, investigators may already possess information that has not been publicly disclosed. The public sees uncertainty. Investigators may see pieces of a timeline slowly coming together. Whether those pieces ultimately reveal what happened to Nancy Guthrie remains unknown. But one question continues to stand out above all the others. If Nancy's Apple Watch was recording data during those critical hours, what exactly did it see before everything changed? And that's where the story takes another unexpected turn. We'll continue in the next video.